Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to Beyond the Veil, a podcast on psychic protection, spiritual hygiene, and navigating the ebbs and flows of the healing journey as you learn to master both your sovereign and shadow selves. My name is Lauren on Earth, your host, and as promised, I'm going to continue to share more about my process, my ceremonies that I recently just participated in with the intention to hopefully where it will help you better understand your own process and where there may be blind spots or what's to come so you can better prepare for it. So where we left off on part 5 was the energetic closing of all of these cycles and the completion with the shadow system, my maternal lineage, and then I sat with ayahuasca for the first time in almost 2 years, right as all of this was coming to completion within 2 days. So I did give myself a nice break from working with medicine to continue the work without it, to do it myself, having that relationship when the medicine calls and when it doesn't, and when it's time and when it's not. And to all of the people out there who continue to speak negatively about plant medicine and ayahuasca, they are just so misled. They are misunderstanding the value of the medicine. And to me, it confirms that they maybe not only do they not understand, but they probably haven't experienced what I've experienced. And instead, maybe some darker ceremonies that led them to believe what they do. Because there are a lot of shamans out there that are misusing it and abusing it, and they're not holding a proper container. You're not able to have that same relationship with the spirit of the medicine, and they're using their abilities and connections to do the opposite of healing, where sometimes there is harm inflicted or that self-service. For anyone who calls it demonic, they probably had a demonic experience that could have even been their own energy and their own shadow. But there is such profound healing potential with the medicine when it's approached with respect, preparation, and the right guidance. And plant medicine is not inherently dangerous. It's a gift, and it's also a mirror. And it reflects the shadow and the light within us, forcing deeper confrontations with our traumas, fears, and patterns that we can't always see consciously. And we're in the conscious mind. So those who walk away claiming it's evil or harmful are mostly speaking through their own experience where trust was broken, maybe boundaries were ignored, guidance was corrupted. Because if they worked with it the way that I do, they wouldn't be saying what they're saying. And true plant medicine work demands responsibility, both from the practitioner and the participant. And it asks you to sit in discomfort, to face your inner darkness, to emerge with more clarity and integration. And yes, it can reveal karmic threads and patterns of abuse and unseen attachment in a way that we just can't access within our consciousness without that support. And it can also awaken compassion and insight and liberation. And I've said this so many times before, but I would not have gotten where I am today without the medicine. What the medicine has done for me, no human could possibly ever have done in taking me where I need to go within the unconscious or within my greater consciousness, and helping me to clear these very, very, very deeply embedded distortions. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that today. But we need to make a clear distinction between the medicine and the abuse and malpractice. And the key is discernment, preparation, intention, and discernment in choosing shamans and facilitators, ceremonies, and even the location that honor safety and consent and genuine guidance. And again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I never, ever, ever recommend sitting with someone, either a facilitator or a shaman, whatever they call themselves, that are not born into the lineage. There is a difference, and people are going to tell you no. Usually, the people that took the title of shaman, even though they were not born into it, will tell you this. But I don't care if they studied with the Shipibo for 10 years. It is not the same. And you guys know how I feel with the Shipibo. It is in their culture to practice black magic. It is part of their ceremonies. A lot of them don't see the issue because it is part of their culture. But I also feel like all this teaching that they're doing to Westerners is out of integrity. And because if you are truly in a very difficult ceremony, the facilitator needs to be able to handle anything and be able to protect you and help you out of it if that is the case. And most facilitators really don't have that awareness, and they also don't have the knowledge. They have a lot of knowledge, but not fully because they haven't been in the traditions and sitting with the medicine for as long. My shaman in Colombia, he started drinking when he was 6 years old to prepare for this role. And there is just no comparison, regardless of what other people are going to say. There is this man in the Tulum area in Playa who's been accused by many women of sexual abuse and misuse that I also personally have helped women to get out of this very strong web, this egregore that he binds them into. And this person has come out and been named, and his wife or ex-wife is still hosting ceremonies. People are still going to him and going to the ex-wife. And I just am not quite understanding where the disconnect is and why people also aren't able to put together that the wife is not a safe person to work with either. So it kind of goes back to what I say a lot with the dark forces. There's a whole journey ahead once you separate from someone like this to get out of that energy and his web. And she hasn't. And she is also just as responsible with doing the same exact thing as him. And people's reasoning when I ask is, oh, well, the music is really beautiful. It's a beautiful ceremony. And it's just like they just don't see it and don't understand or care to. And yeah, when you're married or in a very deep, intimate, or deeply connected to someone like that, and you just walk away physically and continue to be in service in whatever way that looks like for you, you need to understand that you are continuing to perpetuate those same distortions unless you have gone through the complete purification process and the end of the contract with this person, which can take many years and requires you to step away. And this person has not done that. And then you have places like Rhythmia in Costa Rica, Pachamama in Costa Rica as well, where there is nothing good about those places, so much dark energy surrounding these medicine ceremonies. And I don't think I've shared this on the podcast, but I, get some not so nice messages and comments quite often because I am triggering people by speaking truth. And I woke up to multiple messages in a row, and I never, wake up and check my notifications. Honestly, I never really check them anymore at this point. But I had this man just incessant harassing me in the comments with a blue check mark. And something just, I never look at profiles, and something just told me to look at this person. And it was the head integration coach at Rhythmia. And not only did it stop there, because I commented back and I was like, I see you're the head integration coach at Rhythmia. This is really crude behavior for someone who's supposed to be holding beautiful space for others that go through sometimes some of the most vulnerable experiences of their life. I did tell Rhythmia, I did send them a message, and at first they were concerned. I sent the screenshots, the conversation, and I never heard from them, which just proves to me that they, like, who he is also who they are. And then what came after the craziness is I had two dreams in a row. So the first dream, the night of that, I was being chased by a poisonous snake that I knew was going to me if I it did not find it. Like, it was in my bed and it kept moving between dimensions, and I couldn't find it and I couldn't go to sleep. And I woke up thinking something was trying to unalive me, like literally with that word. Like, that's what it felt like. And I thought, okay, I'm, just back to Tulum. There's always a shadow period we go through. Maybe it's some subconscious stuff coming up. And then the next night, I have another dream where I'm in a cabin with my friends, and I'm telling them that someone is hunting me and looking for me and is trying to find me, and they're going to find us if we don't leave this cabin. And so we were running around like this town in the mountains trying to run away from this man that was going to, again, unalive me. And I wake up lucid because I start to become aware in the dream that I just had a really similar dream the night before. And now I'm like, this isn't my subconscious. Somebody is after me, and I demand to be shown who it is. And I see the face of the head integration coach at Rhythmia, and I wake up immediately in that moment. And so I'm just going to leave that story with you guys, and you can have it mean whatever you think it means, but this is the truth of who these leaders really are, not only in these fake ayahuasca retreats, but a lot of spiritual communities as well. And a lot of people can't see it, but another red flag with Rhythmia is the price point and how much they charge. It's just rebranded capitalism. And I do not think that anyone that would set up the retreat space that way to have this sacred experience with the medicine is possibly in their hearts and aligned with God. This is a distortion, and the signs are there. So I started working with ayahuasca back in 2018, and it took me many years to really understand, build, and then grow my relationship to the spirit. And I would say in 2021, 2022 was when I really began to understand just what this whole thing is, and what the medicine was and what it can do for us and how it helps us. But it took me many years of working with it, as well as my own practices and my own relationship with the spirit world and the spirit of ayahuasca outside of ceremony. And it took me years to feel comfortable in releasing the control, allowing her to guide, trusting her. Because if you have sat in ceremony and you have sat in challenging ceremonies, you know that the only way out is through. And sometimes it can feel a little scary in the moment because we're working through some really challenging energies. But that's why the trust within yourself, the integration, the preparation are all necessary And a lot of people are not doing any of that. They're just showing up to ceremony thinking it's going to resolve all the issues. So this time around, the first ceremony was pretty gentle. It was the first for them of 6, I would say, like a 4 out of 10 intensity. And the first cup, I didn't really feel much, but the second cup took me on a journey. So the first cup, oftentimes for me, is a little bit lighter, and it's basically just the medicine going in and learning my system and identifying and preparing for what is needed to be looked at or cleared, which is then seen and worked through in the second cup. And this is exactly, how I move through my sessions in a way where, I think these ceremonies really showed me how similar the process is, although obviously ayahuasca is so much deeper. There's no comparison. But, I take the time to create the container, to enter deeper into the body. And sometimes this takes multiple sessions. Sometimes it's, the first 15, 20 minutes of session, depending on what we're working with. And then the movement begins. Although sometimes it is very tough to get the energy moving, and the journey with the medicine and the Yawanawa is so brilliant because in the second ceremony for me, after I took that second cup, which was, strong, and we'll get there, very, very strong. We'll get there in a moment. But I was, hearing their chants, and I could see how the medicine took me so deep into this place within my gut, my womb, my consciousness. As you guys know, I'm healing the womb and the digestive stuff. And we were just slowly climbing and crawling out of this depth together, and the chants just lifting me back up and pulling me out of those depths. And the women were so in the moment, so connected to their spirit, to their purpose, their role, to the spirit of the medicine and their chants, that were literally pulling me out of what to me felt like the depths of a version of hell. And not just me, but there's 20 other people in the room, all of us in our own process. And I am just in awe to the point where I honestly tears when I talk about it and think about it, just amazement and pure gratitude. And this is exactly why when I see spiritual people, quote unquote, on social media, where there's just negative things to say about the medicine, and all I see is ignorance and foolishness, because if they truly had the relationship and had a proper ceremony, held in integrity, and were in integrity in their daily life as well, where they were truly called by the spirit of the medicine, and went through a process of potentially multiple months of inner work to prepare, and didn't get caught in their ego, they would not be saying what they're saying. To me, it's just ignorance and misguidance. And they would actually understand what this medicine is and what it is here to do for us, but it only comes with reverence and relationship and respect. So going back to the first ceremony after the second cup, and this was, basically the whole point of the ceremony was clearing the shadow system physically. So you guys know I cleared it energetically in the ether, and now it's time to get it out of my body. And yes, it was physically plugged into me. And the moment I saw what all of this energy was, because I see it first and I'm like, what is going on? And it was disgusting. I don't even know how to describe it other than imagine brown goo, metal lodged into it, open wires, kind of look like serpents, like this structure, and it was being removed. And remember how, I talk about the shadow system as a matrix, this synthetic overlay that plugs in and sits on top of your own. And it does get very plugged in very, very, very deep into your being. For me, it looked old, rusted, just gross and sharp. And within 4 minutes, I purged, and I knew this was my body getting out the physical energy from this in my body, and also the residual of the energy itself that manifested physically. And I did take another cup after that, but it was only a mini baby cup, so 3 cups total, which is a lot for me. But there was one more thing that didn't take me too deep, but that I needed to see in that ceremony. And it has to do with Randy, the woman in Mount Shasta responsible for all of that, the dark energy in my system. And if you listen to part 1 of my underworld journey, you know about the mushroom ceremony I did with them when those 2 portals opened in my body, and then that's how they got in. So I thought it was a portal that opened on the right side of my abdomen, right to the right of my belly button. And I was brought back to a vision of that ceremony and was shown us in the garage, because that's where the ceremony was, in kind of this like horseshoe shape. And Randy and I were across from each other. And so they showed me sitting up and facing the wall, and then Randy sitting up facing me. But my back was turned toward her, and how she basically, it was like an arrow being shot through my entire being, entire body. So like imagine like an arrow tearing through everything, every layer, all the way through my physical body, and then all the way through my front. It wasn't just an opening of a portal. It was so much more than that. And this was hard to look at for me. Obviously it hurt. It made me feel sad. It felt like abuse. And, again, those feelings of how can someone do this? How evil does someone have to be to do this? You literally put a bullet through me. You tore through everything, and then you took advantage, and I was suffering for 2 years, which could have been lifetime. I mean, it was lifetimes, but luckily I was able to get a hold of it and a handle on it in just 2 years. But I really felt the pain that I wasn't able to fully feel, because it's like the moment all of the truth came out, I just had to be in warrior mode. And I also can't believe how hidden this was and how it took this long to see it. And as I'm now like really getting to the root and in this deeper healing that can now happen. And I think those 15 months of gut repair and detox, it was time to see it, especially as I've been working on the repair. So that was huge to have that revealed to me. And now I can finally start to heal in a new way. And the thing is, like, yes, I felt pain and I felt a bit of anger, but mostly just sadness for myself because it looked rough. And that's after so many years already of repair. And sadness too, which, is it's a heavy frequency that the field carries and kind of pulls everything downward and inward. And, this was something that was never fully named, never fully witnessed, and something that I carried for so long that has become structural and woven into the identity of myself. And the tear, not only gave them an opening, but it disrupted everything. The mental body, lost its organizing principle, and the internal architecture was fractured and it had collapsed. And I wasn't able to fully heal it because I didn't see exactly what was done. And this is a huge violation of sacred space, because the field is not just energy. It is me. It is the living boundary of my existence. And when something moves through it deliberately and without consent, it touches something that is very hard to put into words. And this is why I say these people are criminals. The tear was nothing compared to, I mean, it let in everything that I went through, you know? But again, more people are doing this than you realize. It's not just a far off concept, it is rampant in the spiritual community. So, obviously, I've processed so much of this already, but this just hit a little different than anything in the past. And maybe I never really processed it and needed to, because I went into that protective warrior mode the moment all of this started. So, just sitting more with the reality of the abuse, the deliberate and calculated move through my field, through my trust. This was supposed to be a best friend, through the most open and vulnerable layers of my body. So, anyway, I also just want to say that I was pretty hesitant to sit in Tulum to begin with, because the medicine community here are a bunch of randies, honestly. The medicine, I don't want to speak for everyone, but that's the energy of a lot of people here. Some people that have almost an identical blueprint to Randy, and I didn't want to open myself up to that. So the community here, it's like, it's sloppy, it's parasitic, it's sinister. It's icky. And I knew many of them would be at the ceremony. There are a lot of people here in the community that abuse the medicine and act like medicine women and men, yet are doing black magic, and sometimes in the ceremony, which I did experience this first one. I had never also sat with Shavora before. I had heard that not all Yawanawa are in integrity, and I know of one family that is not. So I was a little worried about sitting with people that I didn't know, and then being surrounded by the greater community. And, it can go sour very quickly, and I just cannot afford that right now. My boundaries are stronger than ever. So I did have this, fear come up of undoing all of the hard work in one moment, but I sat with it and sat with it, and it was a clear yes. And I'm very glad that I did, because there is not a word that I can use to describe these women. They are just incredible at what they do. And I am also forever changed by simply just witnessing them in their gift. And I aspire to have that same effect on others. And while I was protected, there was a problematic person in ceremony. This person lives in town. I see them more often than I would like around town, and they have a very off-putting energy to me. This person, the way I read it, is a dark priest, a Freemason, and a member of multiple occult lineages who held and hold high ranking in those lineages. This person uses manipulation, dark force, or force, and sorcery to achieve their goals, and also does not have respect for women and women's boundaries. And it's a very predatory energy. And I see him putting spells under these women, and I've witnessed that play out right in front of my eyes. And this woman he has under this spell is dark herself, so I really just cannot be bothered by it. But yeah, they're just both causing suffering for each other, and not my place to care. And however, I do care when it affects me. So he sat there. His energy, I just felt suffocating the space, and he chanted for 4 hours. And that's fine. People do it quietly. They encourage you to sing along and chant if you know them. But this person was very loud, disruptively loud, like louder than the Yawanawa. And he also didn't know the chants. He wasn't singing them properly. He was like picking them up as he went. And because you are not singing them properly, it is now a distortion. And so there was this disruptive frequency coming from this man almost the entire ceremony. And it was a trigger for me. Obviously, it's all part of the medicine, but I had to really work to keep it from affecting me. But at the same time, this was part of my ceremony as I'm clearing this same energy out of me. And it's also now being blasted through the space, just so much ego. And I'm so over all of these dark magicians here in Tulum who are just simply now establishing themselves even deeper into the community this year. This is what I've observed, taking over events, buying land and property, opening up Kundalini studios, things like that. They're all giving each other opportunities, and it's dark, and they're integrated here, and they have been for a while, but it took to a new level this year. And at the same time, their true colors are also coming out, and those that are one of them are guided to them, and those that are not are separating. And we are not united as much like we once were. I think it was the illusion of unity, absolutely. But we all spent more time together. And this year, there was just no space for mixing and mingling like that, especially for me and my group of friends. And I personally did not attend any of these events. And I won't even go to friend dinners where some of them might be invited, again, because I have to have those strong boundaries. And I've been questioning my relationship too with friends of friends who are friends with some of them. So, like I said, I just have no tolerance and honestly cannot be bothered. And the way I see it is if you do have a tolerance for it, it is a direct reflection of a lack, a leakage, also an opportunity for self-love, because true self-love and respect means no engagement with these energies. And I am so grateful to have arrived here, but I also know there is more to go. So I just want to talk about the final ceremony because this was a 7 out of 10 intensity. And I also wasn't really expecting it. I was hoping that it would be like the first, more gentle. And it was hard, and it needed to be what it was, and it was necessary. So there was a location change. We were in a cave. The energy in that cave is questionable, and I knew this going in, but I've witnessed now Shavora, and I knew they would contain the space. So it was in a cave. And that alone just speaks to what this ceremony was like and what it always was intended to be, because the cave forced us inward and into the womb and into that darkness and that sacred darkness. And we were also right above water. So there was water of the cenote flowing right under us. And again, not much happened in my first ceremony, or my first cup, although I did purge at the end of it. But I was kind of dozing in and out, listening to the chants, and layers of energy were moving, but nothing super specific. And again, the medicine was more arriving in that first cup. And I did purge in the first cup. And whenever that happens, I just know I'm in for a ride in the second cup because I've already cleared out my system. And normally, most of the time, the purge comes a little bit later on in the night. So I go and take the second cup, and I just was a little taken back and surprised by how strong and how quickly that second cup just took me under. And it absolutely sent me into the depths of, I don't even know, into my womb, basically my gut, the space in my abdomen that has been causing problems since that first retreat in 2021. It was so deep, and what was clearing mostly was very old Atlantean black magic. And so, round 6,527 of clearing black magic out of my consciousness. And the thing with black magic is sometimes you can clear it at a bit more of a distance, right? Which I've done both. So let's say we're in session and I'm identifying the spell work and where it's lodged in the field and where it overlays, and we're removing it energetically. And you know that it's happening, but you also have a middleman, which is me, right? To see it and feel it. So you're a little bit farther removed from it, as am I. And usually in session, I'll just see it as like a dark web or black energy. But when you're on the medicine, or like patterns, inverted patterns, when you're on the medicine and when you're clearing the spell work, the way I can explain it is like this: you're in it. So, like this massive current of energy that has created so much harm and so much distortion. It's like you now can't escape it, and it's just everywhere. And it's just layers of really messed up, like effed up, distorted energy patterns, parasitic frequencies that are like trapping and binding and harming and abusing. And it's so twisted and so sick when you're in it like that. I mean, it is, period, but especially when you're just moving along with it like that and seeing the energy itself is what it's actually made up of. It's quite a trip. And you have to stay calm. You have to trust the process, trust the facilitators, trust the medicine, and just breathe as you come back to your body, as your body releases this, and come back to the now, and just allowing the energy to move. And I can't describe what it feels like other than a trip, and just how much inner strength you need to have in order to be able to navigate something like this over and over and over again. And I did have a moment of questioning my safety and like what is happening and what did I just get myself into, and am I screwed? I don't know, because this ceremony was just so different than the first, which is normal. They're all different, And yeah, that lasted all of like 4 seconds, but I did have a moment of like, oh, this is really effed up and I hope I'm okay. And not long into the descent, when I was absolutely tripping, there were fractals on the rocks, on in the air, and I had to go to the bathroom. And the bathroom, you had to climb all the way out of the cave, and there were these pretty treacherous stairs you have to go up to get to the bathroom. And I did okay on my way there. I had the issue on the way back, and I remember saying to the medicine, like, I'm done throwing up, right? Because that's like one of the worst parts for me, even though I've gotten a lot more skilled at it. And the medicine's like, yeah, okay, we're done, we're done. And then within 3 seconds, this is TMI, guys, but this is just me sharing my experience, but projectile vomited, like straight mucus that I couldn't see, but I felt it. And I'm like, oh, cool. So apparently there's clumps of mucus in the body. Who would have thought after 15 months of cell core that was expelling the mucus daily? So this is why I share this, because there's more of it than we realize. And so anyway, that was fun. I go sit back down. I go into my process. I'm clearing. Things are starting to lift eventually. And another thing too, like when I'm in ceremony and the air starts to get heavy and I feel like I can't breathe, that's also when I know the density of consciousness that I'm in. And when I know I'm in deep, and then slowly, like the energy starts to lift because you're pulling yourself out of it and you're working through it. And with every chant, I was able to eventually sit up and move my body and breathe. And the second half of that cup was, now that the Atlantean black magic that I believe was connected to the dark priest from the night before, and everything that these people represent here in Tulum, because there is an Atlantean cult that all of these people are keeping alive and feeding. And then I was able to process emotions and trauma and just digesting things in my stomach. Like my stomach was just gurgling the whole time. that can now only be digested after the distortion lifted. So it's like the dark magic binds you to it and keeps it stuck. And afterward, now I have not been bloated since. There's way less inflammation. My stomach is a lot flatter after that. And I've been trying to digest the emotions, right? But I had to move the dark magic first. And again, the ceremony was a culmination of all of the work I've been doing over the last 8+ years, because the weight has been not easy to lose. And for those new here, I put on about 15, maybe more pounds from Randy and all of the distortion she pumped into me. So that was part of it. And so anyway, they stop chanting, they serve hape, they offer a third cup, which I do not take, and then they start singing. And the music is so beautiful. People get up and start dancing, and it's like we're celebrating our journey and the hard work and the joy and life force and expansion and all the beautiful healing frequencies that begin to move through me. And it's my favorite part of the night. I feel so good and so happy and so accomplished. And it's, the wee early hours of the morning. It's just so, so special. So the following 2 days, I felt complete with the medicine. I was not going to sit again. I felt pretty good, but tired. And then I wake up on Monday morning. This was Friday. So Monday morning, my stomach was just so upset. My energy was low. I felt sick. This went on for 2 days. I can't eat anything. I can't keep anything in my stomach. And in the middle of the night on Tuesday, around 2 a.m., the day before the eclipse, or on the eclipse, I woke up just so sick, and sorry, TMI again, but threw up and another like massive mucus ball. And for a minute I was thinking, like, do I have food poisoning? Is this even connected to ceremony at all? But then that confirmed that it's not food poisoning, and this was the medicine still working through me that needed to get this out. And I felt that. So yeah, I went through it physically, but it's exactly what needed to happen. The energetic and the physical are connected. So after the eclipse, and going back into session and all of the work with clients, I just feel so much better, so much stronger, more alive in my body, more stable in my work and in my client relationships and in our processes together. So I know good things are coming. It just requires me to do some hard stuff, which is why I'm talking about it here, and some things that I'm not sharing just yet. But yeah, it's been honestly pretty a rewarding and beautiful but challenging Tulum season, in the sense that it has forced growth and maturity, and not in a gradual way. It has forced me to step up big time, and that comes with also needing to be the bigger person, do the right thing, have hard conversations, show up in my life as an active participant, and not even participant, but the lead role. So I'm so grateful for Tulum, as always, for all the shadow work that is next level here. And at the same time, I live in paradise, and I am so lucky and have an amazing community here that I wouldn't trade for anything. And the nourishment from the elements, the beach, the food, the sun, yeah, I'm just grateful for every single day, even though it's hard, and 1,000,000% worth it. Even if I haven't seen all the benefits from it yet, but I feel relieved, I feel accomplished, and I'll give you guys an update soon on how my detox and somatic work is going. But but thank you so much for listening, for being here, and for listening to my process, because I really enjoy sharing it, because I'm also learning as I go. So, really early on, I learned to not place expectations or try to control outcomes. And I've come to understand that the unconscious holds a depth that we cannot fully grasp, with countless layers that unfold over time. And the deeper I go, the more there is to see. And hopefully this helps you maybe in some way catch a glimpse of it too. And maybe this will resonate with you or even spark something new in your own journey. So thank you all for this safe space for me to share, because I know this isn't for everyone. Love you all. Until next time, you can find me at laurenonearth.com, Lauren on Earth on Instagram and TikTok. Bye.